What are you doing in my swamp?
Hello everybody, this is Ogreboy, and I'm going to be doing my ranking for all 17 of John Travolta's 1990s movies. So, in the 90s, John Travolta appeared in 17 movies where he was a supporting role or the main character and everything. I'm leaving off a couple movies, The Thin Red Line and Our Friend Martin, where he's just really small roles in those movies. So I'm leaving them off. It's just his supporting and starring roles that I'm going through in this list. But I'm going to go ahead and get going, because there's a lot of them with 17 and everything, so I'm going to go ahead and just get going. Coming in at number 17 is A Civil Action. This is a movie where he plays a lawyer who is investigating a string of deaths after people have consumed water in this little town and everything. And it's a pretty good, intriguing legal thriller movie and everything. It's not this slow because I think it's necessarily a terrible movie. I think it's pretty decent, but it's not one of my most favorite movies of his because it is a little bit slow and everything. It's kind of a slow burn movie, and it's not as memorable as some of his other movies and performances from this decade and everything. But this isn't necessarily a movie that's on here because I think it's bad this slow. It's not this slow because I think it's bad, because I actually enjoy most of these movies to at least some degree and everything. And this one I think is a fine movie. It just isn't one of my most favorites. So A Civil Action is number 17. And number 16 is Shout. This is one of the ones where he's a supporting role. He plays a teacher at this music school and everything, and he's really good in it and everything, in the little bit that he's given and everything. But I just wish he was in this movie more. The supporting cast are pretty good. Heather Graham's in here, and the actor that plays the lead character, he's pretty good and everything. But John Travolta steals the show whenever he's on screen. He's really good in this movie, but it just isn't one of his best movies or best performances. So it's number 16. And number 15 is Eyes of an Angel. This movie is also known as The Tender. It has two different titles, but I call it Eyes of an Angel because that's what's on my VHS case. And this movie is pretty good too. This is a movie where him and his daughter are going on this trip and everything, and they find this dog that's been beaten down from being put in dog fights and stuff, and the girls want to keep him, and the dad wants, John Travolta's character wants to get rid of him, and it pretty much is just about their relationship and everything. And it's a pretty good, underrated, independent movie. I think this movie's actually pretty good and everything. It's not one of my most favorites, obviously, because it's pretty low on here, but I do think it's a pretty decent movie. And like I said, I think his 90s stuff, that there were quite a few good ones and everything. And this one, I think, is a pretty good one. So Eyes of an Angel is number 15. And number 14 is White Man's Burden. This is a pretty crazy movie where society's roles have been reversed, and the white man is kind of down on his luck and stuff, and there's more rich and powerful black men and stuff, and he plays this character that goes to rob this rich black man and everything, and he takes him hostage and everything. It's a pretty crazy movie, but it's a pretty interesting movie. It's a good what if scenario if the world was different and everything. It's kind of a good what if scenario, but it's a pretty interesting movie and everything. Henry Bonfatelli, I know I butchered his name. He's really good in this movie. And I just really enjoyed this movie quite a bit. So White Man's Burden is number 14. And number 13 is Chains of Gold. This is a movie where he's playing a social worker, and one of the kids that he's helping has gone missing, and he's kind of investigating, trying to find out what has happened to this kid. And it's a really good movie. It has one of the Lawrence brothers in it as the kid and everything. I think it's the one that was in Mrs. Doubtfire. He's really good in here. And John Travolta gives a really good performance in this movie. I think this one is kind of one of his underrated movies and everything. It was a direct-to-video sequel that came out after Pulp Fiction came out. It originally was meant to come out in like 91 and everything. It was played at a few festivals and stuff, but it got released direct-to-video around the time Pulp Fiction came out to cash in on John Travolta's newfound success and everything. And I think this movie is pretty underrated and everything. I don't think it's near as bad as some people think it is, but I don't think it's one of his absolute very best either. It's just a really good, underrated time and everything. So Chains of Gold is number 13. And number 12 is Get Shorty. This is where he plays a mob shark, and he's wanting to get into the movie business and make a motion picture and stuff. And he's really, really good in this. Is Chili Palmer. He just really, really great character. One of Travolta's best from that time period. While I don't think this is one of his best movies, I love his character in this movie and everything. Well, I wouldn't say this is one of his best from the 90s, for me personally. I understand why a lot of other people would say it is one of his best of the 90s, because it is really good and everything, and it was a good follow-up to Pulp Fiction for him and everything. It was his first movie he did after Pulp Fiction, and I think it's a pretty good movie and everything. Danny DeVito is great in here. Rene Russo is great. Gene Hackman's great. So it's got a really great supporting cast, and John Travolta is really good in this movie. So Get Shorty is number 12. And number 11 is Primary Colors. Now, I'm not a political person at all. I don't give two craps about politics, to be honest with you. But this movie is really, really good, and he plays like a Bill Clinton type character. He's a lot like Bill Clinton and everything. And this movie is largely inspired by Bill Clinton's run and stuff, but I think this movie is really good. John Travolta, I think, gives one of his best performances of the 90s in this movie. It's not my most favorite movie. I think it is one of his best performances from this time period. He's really, really good in here. And the cast are all really great. It's got a great supporting cast: Billy Bob Thornton, Kathy Bates, Maura Tierney, and just many other good ones. But I really love this movie. So Primary Colors is number 11, and number 10 is The General's Daughter. Now, some of the subject matter in this movie makes this one kind of hard to rewatch and everything. It's one that I don't like rewatching unless I'm just going through his stuff because of that. But it's got a really engaging and entertaining story. The mystery of what happened to this woman is really engaging and keeps you on the edge of your seat throughout the whole movie and everything. And the twist at the end was shocking, and I didn't see coming. And it's just a really, really good, underrated movie and everything. I think this one's another one that doesn't get talked about enough and everything. So The General's Daughter is number 10. And number 9 is Look Who's Talking 2. This used to be my second favorite in the franchise, but after rewatching all 3 Look Who's Talking movies, I've decided this is actually now my least favorite. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad movie, though. I think that this is a pretty solid trilogy. There's a lot of fun to be had in here with Bruce Willis coming back as the voice of the baby, and then his sister is voiced by Roseanne, and she's really good. And then you got David Wayans as his other friend, and they're all fun together. The relationship between John Travolta and Kirstie Alley is still pretty good. They still have really good chemistry together. And this is just a really good movie. I've always enjoyed this one quite a bit. It's not quite as good as the first one and everything, and I don't think it's quite as good as the third one either, obviously, but I do think it's still pretty good. So Look Who's Talking 2 is number 9. And number 8 is Look Who's Talking Now. Now, this is a pretty decent entry in the trilogy. This is the one that's actually a little bit different than the first two. Instead of having the babies doing the talking, they get dogs that do the talking and everything. And this one's a Christmas movie too, and it's a pretty decent movie. There is a little subplot with Travolta's character meeting with this woman that Kirstie Alley's character thinks he's having an affair with and stuff, and that subplot was kind of silly and cliched and stuff, but a lot of it is pretty good. The kids are pretty good in here. David Gallagher is pretty good at playing the older version of their son and everything. He's really likable in here, and the one that plays their daughter is really likable too. It's a really good sequel and everything, and it's a decent ending to this trilogy. So Look Who's Talking Now is number 8, and number 7 is Phenomenon. This is a really, really good movie where he sees this light in the sky and he kind of just becomes smarter and changes as a person, and it changes his whole community and everything. And it's just a really good small town movie with a great cast. Besides him, you got Kyra Sedgwick, Forrest Whitaker, Robert Duvall. They're all really good in their little small roles. This is just a good, really character study movie of George O'Malley and what happened to him after he sees this light in the sky and everything. It's a pretty good movie and everything. So Phenomenon is number 7, and number 6 is Michael. This is the one where he plays an angel and he goes on this road trip with these reporters and stuff, and it's kind of a fun little adventure movie where we learn more about it as the movie goes on, and we see him perform miracles and stuff. It's a really, really entertaining movie and everything. It's got some great performances from John Travolta, Andy McDowell, and the late William Hurt. They were all really good in this movie, and it's a really good time. The part where he brings the dog back to life is just really heartwarming and touching every time I watch it. But this is a really good movie and everything. So Michael is number 6, and number 5 is She's So Lovely. Now this movie is one of those movies that gets me riled up and gets me going. When I watch this movie, it makes me mad and everything, but I absolutely love it. I think it's got a really good story. It's got realistic storytelling and everything. Good performances from John Travolta, Sean Penn, and Robin Wright Penn. They were all really, really great in this movie. John Travolta's not in this one as much. He's more of a supporting role and everything, but I think all of them are good in it. They're not all... Robin Wright and Sean Penn are not very likable characters and stuff, and they do some really jacked up stuff by the end of the movie, but it's still a pretty good movie and everything, and it's one that it sticks with me because it really gets under my skin and makes me mad. And when movies do that, that means they've done a good job at doing what they were trying to do. And I think that's what they were going for, is to make the audience mad and everything, and it sure worked with this one for me. So She's So Lovely is number 5, and number 4 is Broken Arrow. I absolutely love this movie. John Travolta is so over the top and campy as the villain of this movie. Christian Slater is really good as the main character, and this has a lot of really, really great action. It's from John Woo, who also directed Face Off, which we'll talk about more here in a little bit, but his action is really, really good in this movie. And I'm not even into these type of movies where it's usually and everything, but this one is a really, really good action one, and it's one that if it would have been written and been directed by somebody else and starred other people, I might not have ever gave it a chance. But I really enjoyed this one, and I'm glad that I saw it and everything. It's a really good movie and everything. It's got, like I said, some really great action and everything, and a really fun performance from Travolta. So Broken Arrow is number 4, and number 3 is Mad City. This movie is very underrated. It's where he takes this museum hostage, and a news reporter happens to be in there, and they're kind of building up a news story and everything. And it's a really good movie that talks about how, like, the media glorifies these type of people and everything, but also John Travolta's character is really misunderstood. He's not really fully a bad guy. He's just trying to get his job back, and he's not very smart and everything. So he goes up there. He's not even really trying to hold anybody hostage. It all just kind of comes together and everything. But it's a really good movie. It's very weird and everything, but it's really good, and it has some great performances from him and Dustin Hoffman. So Mad City is number 3. And number 2 is Face Off. This is absolutely one of the best, if not the best, action movie of the 90s. It is a ton of fun and everything. Got really, really great performances from our leading men. John Travolta pretending to be over-the-top Nicolas Cage is so much fun, and Nicolas Cage pretending to be John Travolta is so much fun. They work so good together. They do great at impersonating each other and everything, and like watching the movie, you believe that they're each other and everything. Like you see John Travolta, but you feel like he's Nicolas Cage, and vice versa and everything. And they do a really good job with that. And there's been a lot of rumors that there's going to be a sequel to this. I kind of hope it doesn't happen, because how can you make a sequel to Face Off? It just doesn't make any sense to me. But I absolutely love this movie, and it is a really great movie, and it's barely number 2. Well, no, not barely number 2. Number 1 is easily number 1, but it is a pretty high number 2. I'll just say that much. But coming in at number 1 for my favorite 1990s John Travolta movie is Pulp Fiction. I absolutely love this movie. It is one of Travolta's best movies of all time. I really think that Grease is probably my favorite movie of his, but this one is probably my second favorite, like very, very big second, which shows his range and stuff too, because Grease and this movie are totally different movies and everything. They're totally different characters, and I think that Travolta has always had a lot more range than he's given credit for. I think he's a really great actor, and I think he's really great in this movie. And also we've got Samuel L. Jackson, Uma Thurman, Ving Rhames, and so many other really great names and everything. And it's just a really, really good movie, and it's a really good crime story. It's just entertaining from start to finish, and it's still one of Quentin Tarantino's best movies, if not his best movie, and it's one of John Travolta's best performances for sure. So Pulp Fiction is easily my number 1 favorite movie of Travolta's movies from the 90s, and it's also one of my favorite movies of the 90s in general. So anyway, let me know in the comments what your favorite movies of his from the 90s are. I know most of y'all will probably say Pulp Fiction like me. It's hard not to beat that movie, because it is such an amazing time and amazing movie, and I can understand why anybody would say that this is their favorite movie of his as well and everything. But let me know in the comments what your favorite movie of John Travolta's of the 90s are. If you want to do a full ranking, feel free to do it. If you don't want to do a full ranking, just tell me your favorite, and if you want to, tell me your least favorite movie that he did in the 90s. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Sorry, I got all tongue twisted. I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a good day, everybody.
Yeah.